Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining our podcast, Moms in the Move. I'm Jen Wills.
And I'm Ashley Steigerwald.
And I'm going to let Ashley introduce this guest.
Our guest is my honey. It's Dr. Bill Steigerwald from
Dr.
Southern Eye
Bill.
Associates. Hi, hon.
Oh, hey, how are you, ladies?
I wanted you to snuggle on the couch.
And then I said that was weird and declined.
I felt like it would be too much like therapy. And I don't know that I'm ready for that yet.
Maybe not for me.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. We're here to talk about eyes.
Yay!
And other things. Because I feel like we all know you a little bit. We talk about him on the show.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Maybe too much about me? I'm not sure. I
like,
do watch.
Things
I do.
like Enneagram 2.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Ashley walked in with her coffee this morning. Bill is
coffee
the coffee fairy.
Yep.
Yep.
And the meat diet.
And the meat diet.
Bill's
Okay.
on a meat diet.
All right.
Yep.
So where are we going? What are we going to start with?
Maybe your favorite dessert meat?
Can I give a shout out to Chris? I think you were right in choosing to not be on this. This is intimidating.
So they wanted to have a couples show.
I know. Yeah, a double date. And Chris won't do
My
it.
husband was like, no.
Come on, Chris.
We tried. Did you ever text him?
That's a good question. I don't know
Probably
that I
just
did.
ignored you.
He might have. He blocked me.
Yeah, he might have blocked you. He was like, maybe when you make it to episode 78. I have no idea why 78. But I guess we'll have to
We're
make a
getting there.
note of that. I think we're on episode 30 something.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Halfway there, Chris, almost.
Yeah. But anyway, so Bill is my eye doctor. Chris is eye doctor. Multiple people at work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a private practice?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Southern Eye Associates, we currently have 10 doctors in the practice. We're getting ready to add our 11th this summer when Dr. Peter Goodwin gets back with his family from a mission trip. So we're looking forward to adding him into the practice. So that'll put us at 11.
Mm-hmm.
That includes specialty from general ophthalmology, cataract surgery, to optometric services, which is where I'm involved in. Contact lens specialty stuff, which maybe we'll get into a little bit today too.
You have perfect eyes, right?
I have perfect vision.
yeah,
I have
she's
better than
lucky.
perfect vision.
That's so annoying.
She does.
Yeah.
I've got the bad genes.
Yeah.
So
Is it
we're hoping it doesn't.
hereditary?
Yeah. So
Okay.
myopia specifically, nearsightedness,
Okay.
from a hereditary component. So when you're looking at your kids, if both parents are nearsighted, then
Nearsighted is when you can't
see far away.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Then your children have a 1 in 2 chance of becoming nearsighted.
Ooh.
So
So me and Chris both.
there's
have
a pretty good
vision.
chance at least one, likely 2 of your boys, maybe even all 3 of them will end up being that way because both you and Chris are. Now for Ashley and I'm nearsighted, she's not, and that means that our boys each have a 1 in 3 chance of becoming nearsighted.
Okay.
But I have some kind of Franken gene.
Oh,
Yeah,
what?
do you want to elaborate
A
on
freaking
your
gene?
A Franken gene. No, so we met because I was working at the New England College of Optometry, and one of
Really?
the
That's how you met?
Yep. And one of the doctors was doing a study, and they were swabbing, and they were looking for they were calling it like an anti-myopia gene.
Right.
And so they swabbed, and they hit me up for everything because they need imotropes, which is normal vision for studies and everything else because you need a baseline. So
Right.
anytime somebody had a study come up, and as you can imagine, and in a school where everybody's becoming optometrists, like they all have bad vision. They're all there because they were the ones wearing the Coke bottle glasses and like want to make it up. So I was one of the
It's true.
few imotropes in the building. So I got hit up
What a
for
name.
everything. I know. So they swabbed me for the study, and they didn't hear anything for a while. And only a handful of people out of all the people they swabbed came up for this anti-myopia gene, and I was one of them.
But what does that mean?
Well, I'll say this first. They got super excited because at the time Ashley was pregnant with our first
Like,
son.
can we swab
so they
the
were like,
baby?
they were like practically knocking on the door when we're at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston.
Can we swab
and they're
your
like,
baby?
"Can we swab your baby?" And you're like, "Back off." And he was already a victim anyway. Once he was born
victim.
in our pediatric and infant clinics,
Yeah.
he came in at least a couple of times. I think you managed to bring
the
him
kids
in
can
so that the
practice
kids
on him.
so that other students could practice on him.
Did he get paid?
Yeah.
Should have.
No, Ashley got paid. I think she was still
Yeah.
working for the school.
Myotrope.
Immotrope.
Myotrope.
Yeah. But what we're finding now, as far as from a research standpoint, is that even kids whose neither one of their parents are nearsighted, 1 in 4 kids are becoming nearsighted at the rates of where we are right now. And while the data hasn't been published, what a lot of is getting suggested over the past year, and partly because of COVID restrictions, that kids are progressing even more than what we normally expect them to progress on a yearly basis. And that's
meaning getting worse.
Meaning
Progress
getting worse.
is not yet.
Yes. So progressing, meaning that their nearsightedness is getting worse, their prescription numbers are getting higher. And in particular, from an anatomical standpoint, their eyeball's getting longer. And so that's what we actually measure, what we call
That's so
axial
gross.
length. Yeah. The eyeball's going to grow. It's going to pop out of the back of your head at any moment. It's pushing up against your brain. And
But
no,
we should preface this conversation. I hate eyes. It makes me so sick.
Why eyes? Why'd you, real fast, we'll get back to this. Why eyes? Like you were oh, I'm going to, like, what am I going to do with my life? And you're like, eyes. Like what?
Yeah, why?
So my mom worked for an optometric practice when I was in high school. And I think it just kind of found it fascinating, I think, to that point. I think because it's our primary sense. It's how we participate in the world. It's how we receive information in the world, between whether it's reading or driving. It's this primary sense, right? I mean, I think, and we go back and even say specifically with COVID stuff, right? You can lose your sense of smell and taste, but I've got patients who've lost their sight from glaucoma, diabetes, macular degeneration, a whole host of other eye diseases, and it has a huge impact on their quality of life, their level of independence. Depression becomes a huge problem for some of those patients, and while granted, most of the time we're dealing that with elderly patients, or as patients age, you still deal with that with kids too.
Yeah.
And so there's something rewarding about it.
It's clean.
It's clean. It's generally bloodless, which is kind of nice.
So gross.
I think from that standpoint, I was just always kind of got drawn towards it. And so it'll be 15 years and 10 years that I've been with Southern Eye.
Wow.
So it's been incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
From a professional standpoint.
And then you get great new patients.
Yeah.
I do. We really do have awesome patients. Awesome patients. And they are patients, yes, right? Because we're doctors and they're patients, right? But they are friends. They're family. They're a part of who we are.
When Ashley told me to play that joke on you.
You're always so close to people.
Yes.
Smell them.
Tell them you smell your barbecue.
Well, that wasn't fair because that day she knew that I had eaten.
That's why I was
had barbecue for lunch that day, and she's like, "I smell barbecue," and I'm like,
Oh, no. So I had great vision until college when then the doctor thought it was because I was studying on my computer screen.
Sure. Yeah.
So that being said, screens.
Yep.
Ooh, screens. Yeah. It's definitely considered one of the factors that's involved with specifically we'll say myopia that is contributing to that. So increased screen time, less time outside is a huge factor in that. That's creating some issues, right? So I think a lot of parents, when they come back in and their kids are starting to become nearsighted, or maybe they're worried about it, how do we offset that? It's very difficult to say you can only do X number of hours a day, right? And say you can only be on the screen a certain amount, and that's all that we can prescribe. We don't have the research for that to be able to say it. What we do have research on is 1 to 2 hours of outside time every day, and no screen times before bed. And I try to say at least an hour, ideally 2 hours. Screen time before bed, from a research standpoint, looking at animal models and human issues, that screen time decreases melatonin production, which affects your sleep patterns, and also affects your circadian rhythms too. So it just really throws you off for the rest of the day. If you need to be on a screen before you go to bed, blocking some of the blue light can be beneficial, or using the night mode feature on your phone. I know it kind of makes a yellowish tint to the screen. I do that on my devices. It's comfortable for me. Ashley does not. She hates the way that it looks.
Yeah.
And so it becomes really important to regulate how much time, and then make sure you're just taking breaks during the day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are working at home, kids are doing school, that stuff. And trying to encourage patients, like the mail truck goes by the same time every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear it, go out.
Yeah.
Go outside and go get the mail. Force yourself to have to take a break because you can do that in the office. Right? You can get up and walk down the hall and go get a cup of water and go talk to Joe and go talk to Sally and do the other stuff. When you're at home, you're glued to the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I'm seeing college kids who had been stable for years, and then suddenly they had to jump up in their nearsightedness. And they don't know what's going on, what's the issue. And the amount of screen time, the amount of work that they're putting in staring at the screens has
That's
really
so sad
affected
for the
their
kids
development.
right now because they didn't have a choice except
You're right, they don't.
do the screen. And
What
the
is it about the
virtual.
screen? Is it like you said, going outside? Is it that accommodation muscles getting weak, or what is it about it that is causing the elongation in the eye?
So it's a different muscle. It doesn't work the same way as like skeletal muscles work. It's a little bit more like a cardiac muscle or a smooth muscle in the body. So it doesn't really fatigue, but you can have errors within the system. So you can have focusing dysfunction, which is a huge contributor to kids with poor reading performance in school that affects their learning disabilities or reading disabilities. And 30 to 40% of kids with reading and learning disabilities have a vision problem. So it's a huge factor that's involved in it. You're kind of you're sticking to something, right? Our physiologically, our eyes were not developed to sit there and stare at near objects for such a prolonged period of time and not get a break from it.
Right.
Right.
Meant to be hunting meat.
That's
yes.
why he likes meat.
Which, given my level of nearsightedness and genetically, I
You
probably
would
would have
not be very
failed
good
because
at
I wouldn't have been able to see the animal to be able to target.
Back
I was
in the
telling,
day.
I told him the other day, I was like, I feel like I've been catfished because you wear contacts, and I didn't know how genetically defective he was when we got together. And now we're passing down his genetically defective eyes to our children.
Not yet.
So, not yet. They
Soon.
also
They
have,
seem to be fine.
because it's my Franken gene.
Myopia.
I'm immature. Myopia.
So there's myopia, which is nearsightedness.
I'm just combining them.
We're gonna clarify this a little bit.
Myopia.
Hyperopia, which is farsightedness. Astigmatism, which has to do with the shape of the eye,
Which is one
specifically the
word.
shape of the cornea, which is just one word.
People think it's
It's not
stigma-
astigmatism or
Astigmatism.
astigma. It's astigmatism, just one really long word.
Yeah.
And then once we start getting past our 40s, our focusing system starts to not quite be strong enough any longer.
presbyopia.
Correct, and that's
Do you
called
guys talk like this
presbyopia.
at dinner?
Uh-huh. Hey, honey.
Yeah.
Tell me about
No, that doesn't. That doesn't.
astigmatism.
No, it's generally around dinner time. It's like, what meat are you going to eat tonight? We try to leave the work stuff to like our probably our daily discussion. I mean, I guess since we probably started dating, I think we talk every day at lunch.
Yeah.
I finish up my patients in the morning, and I make a phone call to find out how the day's going.
Yeah.
So
We text each other during the day.
yep.
So sweet.
What do? We talk every day at lunch.
Yeah.
Yep. Even sometimes for a few minutes.
Yeah. And sometimes you come home for lunch, like if somebody cancels or.
So
Yeah,
were
every
you
once in a while I'm lucky I can
there
answer.
dating Ashley when she played football?
Yes.
Did you love it? Are you scared of her?
No, it was interesting. I mean, it wasn't
Awesome.
so it wasn't something that I was overly familiar with. Was the semi-pro world of women's tackle football. I met some interesting people on her team, and it was enjoyable. I think it was certainly different.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley's highly athletic and
Yeah,
highly,
we were just talking about crew.
yeah.
So crew football.
Yeah.
Anything else?
She's super competitive,
Yeah.
like really competitive.
Yeah.
It's like there's just like certain things that we just don't do, like
Because it would turn into
right
a
when it's
thing.
like the kids are saying, "Oh, let's play board games tonight," and you're like,
we don't want to play with mom.
no. It's like they had to have the throw burrito,
Oh.
which is
Is that a
great.
game?
It's a
We'll have
game.
to let you borrow it.
Okay. What is that?
It's these little foam burritos, and you essentially throw them at each other at the game, and everybody was crying by the end of it. Everybody was crying.
Like tears of laughter?
No.
or pain?
No, all of the
No.
above. Pain, frustration,
Yep.
testosterone in the boys. Like, it was not good. But, like, I'll flip a table playing Uno. Like,
Yeah, she will. They're very particular, like, what are the rules before the outset of the game? So it's very clear. So there's no confusion.
no. You gotta follow and same with video games too. I get very.
Oh, it's intense.
I find Ashley just like a fascinating person.
I think
Why?
so.
I don't know. I just think you're very interesting. Like, if those games, like, go around and say something really interesting about yourself. I have nothing to say. I mean, there's nothing. But you could be like, I was a dual major when I was 4 years old in college, because they're so young, and sports. And you're like a national scout
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have this like national title.
Right.
And there's something else.
I don't know.
It's fascinating though.
Okay.
Like,
Thank
tell
you.
me something about myself that's fascinating.
You?
I'm just joking.
Wow.
There's
That I
silence.
ran into your
Silence.
Clemson roommate at a field
That
trip.
is so funny.
I know.
But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, you have all, I don't know, you just like have all these things I feel like are so surprising.
I don't know. I'm a yes. I say yes a lot.
Yeah.
Like a weird opportunity, like the football thing. Like I saw it and I was like, yes, let's try it.
It's exactly how she worded it when I asked her to marry me. She's like,
Yes.
yes,
Let's try it.
I'm game.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm on the knee and it's raining. So could you get that yes out a little bit sooner? It's really uncomfortable leaning on this wooden plank on a dock and it's pouring down rain. And
Was that how you did it?
Yeah.
yeah,
It was
Yep.
pouring down rain?
It was.
yeah, it was starting
Like the
to.
Notebook? Wait, was that the Notebook?
Oh, he loves the Notebook.
So that's like Chris's. Hold on. This is why Chris should be here.
I know.
Chris owns the Notebook. He bought it in college. Also, the Friends DVDs.
Can he get through the Notebook without crying?
Yeah, I mean, probably now because we've watched it so many times. You
Okay.
can't? You cry every time? What scene?
The end.
The end. You know what I don't
He
like?
can't even talk about it. That was very sensitive.
So, anything else you want to talk about? It is.
It's a good movie.
It's well written.
Mhm.
Of course, he's South Carolina native, so
I love
Sparks
it.
is a big guy through this state.
There's actually one of our friends, Chris, he grew up in Somerville. So his best friend's wife, whatever, we were at the beach with them. Her dad's lumberyard is where they filmed the lumber scenes.
Oh,
Oh, that's
I
cool.
thought that was interesting. I felt a little famous.
you're like, oh.
I know them.
So now you learned one more thing about Jen that you
Yeah.
didn't know before.
That's
She went to the
interesting.
lumber yard. Where they
that was
filmed-
in where they filmed.
Or you didn't even
the
go there,
Notebook.
but did you go
She
to
just
the
knows the
lumberyard?
people
No,
that
I
own
You
it.
just know
I
it's
just
there.
know them.
Okay.
Briefly, I met one day.
Who did we see walking in Boston? Sammy Hagar.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we.
Who's Sammy
We-
Hagar?
Okay, so that's what we're getting
Same
to.
thing.
So for all the Van Halen fans out there,
Oh.
so we actually we were still dating at the
Yeah.
time. So we walked out of one of the movie theaters over by the Boston Common. I don't even remember what movie we saw at that point. It's not important. So we walk out and we walk out and we walk up to the intersection and I recognize and I'm like, that's Sammy Hagar. And he's standing there with his wife and his kids at the time. Now, granted, this was probably 16, 17 years ago. Or almost 17 years ago, probably. And
that's so funny.
so we're
I know.
standing there, and I elbow Ashley, and I go, "That's Sammy Hagar," and she's like, "Who?" And I go, "Forget this." So I pull out my little Nokia phone. I'm gonna date myself. It was not a flip phone.
Oh, it was
It was
right
just
with
one
the
of the
block.
regular, the block,
Was this
like
before
break type phones.
Blackberries?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I was also a student at the time, so
Yeah.
I'm like I just whatever phone was the
Yeah.
cheapest that extended my parents' plan by 2 years, and I got that phone call. So I called my my friend Pat, who's now at the University of Louisville and a professor out there, and I call him. I go, dude, I'm standing at this intersection, and Sammy Hagar is standing right in front of me, and we were probably like 10 feet behind, so it was one of the line, and he goes, tell him we want Dave. And I was like, hey, that wasn't.
See,
so for a reference for the rest of it. So now we got
Like,
Dave,
who's Dave?
David Lieberoth was the original
heard of
singer
that
for
guy.
Van Halen. And of course, Eddie passed away this past year.
Such a
the Eddie
Van Halen fan
I was
over
about to
here. You're like
say.
nerding out.
I know things,
Random things.
random things, most of which will never be asked on a Jeopardy
No.
session. Although the one time that the eyeball
See,
questions
Chris is
came
so good
up,
at Jeopardy. It's so you are.
Yeah.
I can see that.
yeah, she's really good.
Yeah.
But I was like in the kitchen doing dishes one night, and the eye questions came up on Jeopardy.
Oh.
And does she pause it? No.
Because you wanted
She
to
doesn't
win.
wait for
That's
me.
right. I had to win.
She had to win.
She had to
And
win.
so this goes back to the competitive part, and
Yeah.
she's yelling out all the answers. Cataracts,
Yeah.
macular degeneration. And I'm like, pause it. She said it's too late.
Sorry.
I ran the category.
I won.
I'm like, wow, that's,
I just beat you.
yeah.
Gotta win. I'm
Yeah,
very,
that's
very
how it
competitive.
goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like playing any of that stuff with Chris because he always beats me, and I'm competitive.
Yeah.
You should see when we like go run together. I mean, I'll make myself.
You guys are like sprinting.
vomit.
I'm going to get back home first, which is why I don't like running.
No,
Because you
kidding.
start and end at the same place.
Oh,
And
see,
why would
we
I go
love-
through all that
love
effort to
running.
just stand here?
I love running.
But like, you know,
I feel like that
Dude.
about doing my hair though. It's like I do it today and I'm gonna have to get up and do it tomorrow too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
making your bed or whatever.
Stupid.
No,
I don't,
like
you know,
to-
there's
I don't like repetitive things.
there's nothing that sort of replaces like I mean, for me anyway, I think, and I know Jen, you talk quite a bit, and you guys have done some of the exercise stuff in the past, but
Yeah.
I think like that moving steel and moving weight,
Mhm.
right?
And
That
eating
is
meat.
right, and we're gonna get to it. See, I'm helping to make that transition for you.
Yeah.
I could write this stuff. So, there's something like progressive about it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you're gradually kind of increasing, you're gradually improving, and you can physically see those things happening.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a little bit better. That's why I don't think I've ever liked like the running part of it,
Running. Yeah. I mean, you get
kind
faster.
of stuff. Yeah,
but- You're like, I don't care. to be
yeah. I mean,
faster.
you know, throw like a 60-pound pack on my back and take a bunch of scouts out. You know, do 5, 10, 15 miles on the foothills trail, and then take
That actually sounds really
take
fun.
about a
Like, I
day
like-
and a half to try to
yeah.
recover and scream that your hamstrings are burning so bad for like 3 or 4 days.
Would you
But
go? Would you go like backpacking?
Yeah.
Like
I
out in the
I
woods?
love doing stuff.
Like-
I don't want to sleep
Like
there.
no.
though.
Oh, you don't want to.
I want to then be airlifted to a hotel.
You're not gonna like dig a hole and like pop a
No,
squat.
no. And Chris would die. He's scared. So he was the youngest. He's a scared person. He was the youngest brother, and the boys tortured him growing up. So I think he like has that. Like he's timid of things. Like sometimes he'll be like, "Did you hear that?"
Oh.
And I'm like, I'll go investigate. Yeah. See, this is his fault. He didn't come. He
I know.
could have stuck up for himself.
Should have been here, Chris. Let's go.
I got you, man.
Double
I
date.
got you.
But actually, I
I'm
did
here
want to
defend
ask.
you.
So when Chris was little, his mom was like, I wish I picked up on this, but he would always like watch TV weird. Anyway, for a while this went on, and he actually had bad vision.
Yep.
So for parents listening, and they're like, oh, I think what should they look out for? Is there any signs? Like,
Yeah. So with kids, the two most common things we're going to run into are going to be that farsightedness, that hyperopia,
mhm.
and then the myopia, the nearsightedness. Things like amblyopia, like a lazy eye, those kind of things that sometimes you see where an eye physically turns. Some of those things are very obvious,
Yeah.
but some of this other stuff doesn't get picked up. It's maybe a school screening or a screening at the pediatrician that detects things, but they don't detect everything.
Right.
And so it's really an eye exam, and sometimes it's asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
So it can vary from my kid sitting close to the TV, or they hold their head kind of funny,
Okay.
or they're not. We're having some reading issues that my other kids didn't have, and so they start comparing their kids' reading performance with one child compared to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all good things to be able to do. It's we're in the springtime right now filming this, but it's baseball season.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times, probably in 15 years now of clinical practice, where a parent comes in and well, we just want to check, and maybe they're having some issues on some stuff, and I'll kind of get to know the kids a little bit. What sports do you play? It's amazing what you hear sometimes from kids when you're like, oh, you got a boyfriend, you got a girlfriend, and they start giggling. And then if the sibling's in the room, they'll immediately, they'll chime up. And that makes for sometimes a little awkward, parents I didn't know that you had a little girlfriend, but that's okay. So during baseball season, it's well, they're not catching fly balls. Their batting average has dropped. That happened to me. So when I started becoming nearsighted, I was in high school, trying out for, it was our freshman baseball team. And it was figuring that out. It was that my vision had decreased, and that's where I was having issues. And so my batting average suffered from it.
Okay.
And so then once I started wearing glasses, wearing contact lenses, it addressed that. So I think for parents to be able to kind of pick up, it's being observant on those things.
Is it a good thing to be proactive and just have them come in for an exam?
What age for the first eye exam?
So good question. Certainly if you notice anything that's abnormal. I've seen younger kids, you get kids maybe 3-4 years of age a little bit. Even sometimes the kids the parents might just kind of chalk it up a little bit to they just kind of stumble a little bit when they walk, or they're clumsy. Sometimes those kids just need glasses. And maybe the reason that they're delayed a little bit in that, in their walking or their mobility could be vision. I mean, and that's something that's part of it. I would say at the very least, definitely by the time kindergarten comes around, school requirements have changed a lot. Kids are reading in kindergarten.
Yes.
Right? When I was in kindergarten way back when, they were still working on
shapes,
letters and shapes and, doing those things.
Right.
Now, a lot of the kids are expected to be able to read. And maybe their visual system's not there yet. They haven't developed that point. And so maybe we are asking them to do something that their visual system is not prepared to be able to do. And so some kids are going to struggle with that. So definitely by the time kindergarten comes around, if things are going well at that point, it's probably every couple of years to check in on some things, depending on we talked to risk factors earlier, especially on the nearsightedness, that as they get closer to that 6-8-year-old age range, so by the time they're kind of hitting 2nd to 3rd grade, is when you start to see the early nearsightedness, the early myopia start to come back into play.
And again, if both parents
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So if both parents are, the risk is there.
Yeah.
And with school, with screen time and Chromebooks with the kids in school, we've got kids that are going to school nowadays, and then they're on the Chromebook at school.
Right.
And so it's it's way too much screen time for where their visual development is.
It's interesting too, because we're so oh, the dentist, and I don't feel like you hear that.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like I've been told you should take,
Right.
Because it's not just not being able to see. There's eye disease. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that could be happening, and especially if you're diabetic or somebody who's diabetic, it's so important to do those regular eye exams because you can lose your vision.
Right.
You've got to keep up on that. Age-related macular degeneration and older cataracts. We had a friend. He was a home inspector. Mid to late 40s, and had a cataract that came over the course of a couple months to the point where he couldn't see.
I don't even know what that means. What's a cataract?
The lens in the eye gets clouded, and then but it's usually older, and it usually takes a long period of time. But you can have a quick forming cataract.
Well, even more so with our diabetes patients.
Yeah.
Okay.
So diabetes probably really the leading cause for vision loss and blindness in the United States for people between the ages of 25 and 74.
Okay.
And so, speaking of pandemics and epidemics, diabetes is considered one of those.
Wow.
And the eyes are a reflection of that. So we can see what's going on with their blood vessel structures. We can see those things are happening that other doctors can't see.
Right.
Right? I mean, you can go to the doctor, they can check your blood, they can do your blood work, but we can see diabetes having an effect on their body by looking in their eyes. We can see that they're at risk for developing a stroke, right? Or other types of cardiovascular disease. So we can see all those things. We see our patients who have autoimmune disease. So patients with rheumatoid arthritis or sarcoidosis,
You've
the whole
diagnosed
litany of those
tumors
things.
and stuff before.
Sure, yeah. But retinal tumors, brain tumors.
Yeah.
Those things get picked up just from an eye exam. And in some cases, those people are just saying, well, I just need to get new glasses.
Or headaches.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, he's had that.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, yesterday I know we have to wrap this up, but I brought Bo to his ENT appointment finally, and he had like a 7-week ear infection that we couldn't get rid of, and they said, you know, no infection, no fluid, but he has like swollen eardrums. And I was like, what does that mean for him right now? And they're like, you know, if you went to the mountains and your ears would pop, he probably feels like that and hears a little muffled. We're gonna go back in 4 weeks and like see what happened. But you know, if kids are used to that,
They don't know the
they don't know the difference. But I feel like that's kind of equivalent to what we're saying with the eyes. Like if they're used to this poor vision, they don't know how to tell you something's wrong.
Correct.
That's what they're used to.
Right.
So no, honestly, I'm gonna bring Bennett in.
So it's not until they get older. So when they start to get into like teenage high school years that they really start to become vocal about their own health. To a degree, you can sort of understand it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard when your kid's reading and they're mixing up words, and you start thinking like dyslexia or something else, and you're going, no, the kid just needs glasses,
right?
And I've had parents bring their kids in, and the parents are sort of they're concerned because their kid's going to have to repeat 3rd grade,
right?
And all the kid needed was a pair of glasses, but you know what? That kid passed school screenings. That kid passed pediatrician screenings, and when you do that, and you get a parent who calls you back a few weeks later and says, "Thank you."
Yeah. Seriously.
Because everybody else missed it. And so, it happens. And so when we start to get those kids as they getting through elementary school, getting into middle school, even as we get our oldest when he's getting ready to drive, right? You got to pass vision tests for driving. And we see plenty of kids come back in. The parents now they got to schedule another appointment at the DMV to get back in. And so it can be frustrating and certainly present challenges. And really up until recently, it was just, here's the best pair of glasses I can give you. Maybe you're a contact lens candidate. Things are going to progress and they're going to get worse. There's not really anything that we can do about it to try to slow it down. But within the last couple of years, we actually finally have FDA approval for a lens, a contact lens that they studied kids between the ages of 8 and 12 and looked at progression rates. So was their vision getting worse? And looked at axial length. So they looked at the length of the eyeball. So what happens in nearsightedness is that the eye grows, it gets a little bit longer. And granted, we're talking like fractions of millimeters at a time here. So these aren't huge changes, but fractions of a millimeter over a period of time. Their eyeball's getting longer, they're becoming more nearsighted. And the risk for glaucoma, the risk for retinal detachments, the risk for cataracts, the risk for other types of myopic eye disease. There's a whole litany of things that the more nearsighted you become, progressively the risk increases more and more and more. And so it's becoming sort of this certainly a major issue. In the US, over 40% of people are nearsighted. You get to parts of Asia, where you get into Japan and Korea and Taiwan and China, where in kids, it's like over 80% of kids are nearsighted.
Wow.
And so it's becoming huge numbers. So there's this huge study say, okay, how do we slow it down to limit or prevent the disease? And so we finally have a contact lens that can be worn by kids to help slow down their progression. And that's what we want to try to do. Less nearsighted kids means less risk for other eye diseases.
So are you offering that now at your practice?
So the CooperVision MySight lens has FDA approval. And so, we've started fitting the lens within probably the last few months. And getting some kids in and talking about and trying to determine first, are they a good candidate for it? And then kind of discussing about what that program involves. It's not your kind of typical contact lens follow-up stuff like maybe we would do for you or for Chris. We're following and monitoring these kids because we're doing more than just say vision correction. We're trying to address that progression, the fact that their eyeball is getting longer, that the prescription's getting worse, and try to have a profound impact on them. And a lot of parents are on board with that, especially when you're nearsighted. You're like, I don't want my kid to be as nearsighted as I am.
Right, of course,
And sleeping in your contact lenses real fast.
2 points on that. One, sleeping in your contact lenses does increase your risk of eye infection. So even if the lens might be approved from FDA studies that you can sleep in your lens, we're obviously very careful about it because some of those infections can be sight threatening.
Never
So we got to be extra
contact
careful.
lens.
But there is a process, and it's one of the other contact lens offerings that I do provide. It's called orthokeratology, or corneal refractive therapy, CRT for short. What we do in that case, it's a specialty designed gas permeable lens, so it's a hard lens, and we carefully monitor it. It is approved for nearsighted or myopia
You can
correction.
sleep in it?
You sleep in the lens, and what it does is it sort of mimics what happens when you have LASIK, which is because they use the laser to flatten the curvature of the cornea. Yeah.
You lost me.
Yeah. Like, I'll just keep wearing my contact lenses. But what it can do is it can give small to moderate amounts of nearsighted patients that opportunity to not have to wear glasses or contact lenses during the day.
So you wear them at night, and then you don't have to wear it.
And then you don't have to
wear.
wear anything during the day.
So sounds gross.
And they're hard though, but they're hard contact lenses.
And you're sleeping in it. There's a risk of infection, so we do have to go through that process and have that discussion. It's part of that process.
Yeah.
But the people who are like just regularly like, I'm just not going to take my contact lenses out.
Right.
Like, take your contacts out.
Yeah, take your contacts out.
I've seen
and
pictures.
bring your kids in.
Yeah, bring your kids in for sure.
Bring your kids in for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You see kids?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're good with the kids.
I try to be.
Yeah.
And, the doctor's office can be intimidating. I mean, I think we all know that.
Yeah.
That for kids especially,
Mm-hmm.
that it's scary for them.
Yeah.
So, I try to make it as relaxed as we can and talk about other stuff, talk about, school, talk about whatever other
You've got
hobbies
good
and stuff that
staff.
they've got. Staff's great.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
really.
we're blessed at Southern Eye Associates to have the staff that we do.
Yeah.
And the doctors all admit we can't do 99% of what we
He has
do
a
if it
scribe.
wasn't for them.
Yeah.
Do you know what she does? She literally follows him around and like writes everything down for him. Life is hard for you.
Yeah. So when was the last time I had to like sign my name on a work document? It's a really good question.
They're too good to you.
They are. They really are. And
But you pay it forward as a coffee fairy.
That's right.
Pays it forward.
We try to take good care of our staff. We know how important they are.
Yeah.
And
No, it's a really
they're part
is
of
a
our
good
team.
place.
I mean, it's not, it's
I used to go somewhere else before him. Before him.
Okay.
Before I met you. And
Well, where can
now-
they find you?
Yeah.
where can they find me? So Southern Eye Associates, we have 3 locations: Greenville, Greer, and Simpsonville. I'm at our Simpsonville location.
Exclusively.
Exclusively, yes. So I get to go to the same place every day, which is really nice. So southern-eye.com. Again, we've got 10 doctors in our practice: glaucoma specialists, cataract surgeons, oculoplastics. We got our retina doctor who's coming in to join us this summer. Specialty contact lens stuff, as we sort of mentioned today, and some other treatment options that we got
Getting
for
into some
patients.
aesthetics.
Yep, going to be Dr. Pace is going to be getting into some aesthetic stuff, so he's going to be working on the oculoplastic stuff. He does fantastic, so check out our Facebook page. They'll often post up a lot of his pictures for what he's helped for people, but yeah, discounts.
Tell me when there's like 5 mLs left in a
Well,
bottle.
there's barely any left in the Botox bottle. Yeah,
Well,
that's
thank you,
that's
Bill,
yeah,
for
absolutely.
coming.
Thanks, hon.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you got to take the morning off.
I did.
Yes.
That was nice.
Yeah.
It was nice. I appreciate it. But it's back to work and helping people see again.
Oh,
Well, thank you again for coming, and thank you to our sponsors.
yes.
Amanda McCall at Prime Lending.
Yay! Go get your loans on. She helped me out this week. I've got some people looking at a condo, and believe it or not, like buying a condo is more difficult than you would think. It has to be something that they call warrantable, meaning that the HOA, and it's a mess. And
I actually just heard about this.
oh yeah,
Monday.
she like fixed it. We figured it out in like 45 minutes yesterday, so
Awesome.
that was fantastic. So call up Parham Lending.
Yeah, and Wilson Associates, Real
Yep.
Estate, Parham Smith Archenhold, Blackacre Law, Closing Attorneys, and Pearl Dental.
Oh yes. So you get your eyes checked and you get your teeth
We've had
done.
a lot of doctors lately.
I know, but it's good. I think
is
we're like,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you everybody for your support. We look forward to seeing you next time.